We're back out here at the Big Lake once again, and today we're talking about one of my absolute favorite topwater baits and how it's so effective during the spring, yet gets so overlooked by so many anglers. What is it? Stick around, we're going to talk all about it. Got him. Oh yeah, there you go. No, you're not going anywhere, buddy. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And here it is, spring 2024 already. Man, this year is just flying by. Now for us here in South Mississippi, that means the spawn is over with. It's done and dusted. I've not seen any bass on beds in a while now, well over a week. And that's normal. For us, those bass are moving into their spring pattern, their post-spawn pattern. And I'm perfectly fine with that because that means reliable topwater fishing. Now is when you're going to get your reliable topwater fishing through the summer months into fall. So that's when the fun can really start. And one of the baits that I like to use that hardly anyone uses because it's so overlooked is, well, a good old cotton cordell, boy howdy. I know if you've been on this channel for a while, if you've watched these videos for a while, this is no surprise. And if you're new here, well, it may be a bit of a shocker. You may have not even heard of one of these. These are some serious old school baits. They've been around for a long time, and they come in two different flavors. This one here is the tail-weighted variety. It's got that little lead ball on the end of it, and while it makes it sit like this in the water and makes it bob up and down almost like a bobber or a cork float or something of that nature, it also aids in casting. It's like that weight adjustment on a jerkbait or whatever that allows it to cast farther. These, although they're light, will cast quite a ways. And whether it's the tail-weighted one or whether it's the prop one, you work them basically in the same types of waters, although you do work them somewhat differently. The prop one and the tail-weighted one have a bit of a different response in the water. If it's going to be someplace where you're going to be working something like a popper, well, a tail-weighted boy howdy or even a propped boy howdy can be a perfect choice. It can be a great change of pace because, like I said, this is not something that a lot of anglers are throwing. You may be the only one on your water that's using something like this, unless you've got a lot of older guys out there. They may be using these because they know what reliable fish catchers they are. Now, obviously, I got a bone color. You guys know how much I like bone for a topwater, but I also have black, and I change those back and forth depending upon conditions. On a day like this, we've got some overcast skies, so I'm going to be going more with that darker color. If it's bluebird skies, I'll probably use something like this. Now, just because there's some wind here doesn't mean I'm going to be shying away from topwater, and I'm not going to be shying away from a boy howdy. They can still be very, very effective. And there's a little bit differences in how they are going to be worked. So let's go ahead and head out on the water, and I'll show you just exactly the differences in how I'm working each type of bait and why they can be so effective. We've got the white with the orange belly, tail-weighted boy howdy. So we're going to see if we can get them interested in the boy howdy this year. And you basically work it like a popper. It just has a little spit to it. You twitch it and it spits. This thing has caught me some monster fish. Actually, the tail-weighted boy howdies and the prop boy howdies have all caught me some really nice fish. It just takes a little bit of a pop, a little bit of slack in your line, and it just goes bleep, makes a little spit, Makes a little bit of a noise. And this is something that I'm going to use to work more targeted areas, like I would a popper. A little bit more subtle than a popper. And like I said, on slack line, you just pop it. Just like that. You don't have to yank on it. Just give it a little tap. That's all you've got to do. All you have to do. And this sucker it'll get the fish from quite a ways. But you see right here, I'm making targeted casts on these laydowns. I've got timber all through here, timber piles all through here, and I've got some flooded brush. So, a very, very similar style to a popper. And kind of working it in the same places as a popper. And you hear that bloop, bloop. It's kind of a different sound than what you're going to get from a popper. Same thing though, you cast it out, you let the rings fade away, let them dissipate, and then a little bit of a twitch on slack line. A couple of twitches and let it pause. A couple twitches and let it pause. You know, just keep it random. And this thing, I'm telling you what, catches toads. I don't know if anybody else that's fishing a boy howdy anywhere near me right now. They don't even sell them in the stores around here. I have to order these online from Bass Pro or Tackle Warehouse. We've got this gold and black propped boy howdy, and we're going to use it, you know, in a very similar vein. We're going to be making targeted casts, and just with slack in your line, just little twitches. Just make it spit a little bit. And then you can also do slow drags with it like that. Just make it move 4 or 5 inches. And that's what you're looking for out of the propped boy howdy. You want to work it just a little bit differently than you did the tail weighted. But you're kind of looking to target the same sort of areas. Almost like you would a popper. Let those rings dissipate. Give it a couple of little twitches. And remember, having slack line is key. That way you're not overpowering, you're not overworking the bait. Mix it up. Little pops like you would for a popper. And then drag it along, make it move about 4 or 5 inches. You know, I see that timber right there, and I'm going to throw it right up against that timber, throw it right in that area. Let it work for a second. And I've kind of got that gold chrome one on there because we've got some overcast sky. I could also use the white one that I have. But those are the places you kind of want to work it. Don't get into it, you know, don't get in too much of a hurry. Let those rings dissipate. And it doesn't have to be super slick, calm water. It just, that's what we have right now back in this little pocket. And that's pretty much it. Make sure you give it pauses in between working it. Like I said, pop it a couple times and then let it drag. Let those blades work. You get a lot of A lot of attention that way from this fish. Right, we've got the old spinning prop style boy howdy tied on, which is a little bit different from the tail weighted one. And there's a few ways you can fish this. You can give it a couple of jerks and let it sit. Again, much like a popper. Or you can kind of pick up on the line like that and get those props going. Got him. Oh yeah, there you go. No, you're not going anywhere, buddy. It's not a, I don't know, it's not a bad fish. There we go. Oops, oops, oops. There we go. The boy howdy strikes again. There we go. So it's not really that hard. You're working it basically very similarly to a popper. Cast it out, let the ripples fade, and then you start working the bait. Subtle pops, subtle jerks, and then maybe a drag here or there if you're using the prop variety. But this here, this is perfect for today. And this is what I used today was the prop variety. I also had a white one tied on, and they worked exceptionally well. Even though it's windy out here, even though there's some chop on the water, I was still able to catch a lot of nice topwater bass using these boy howdies. Actually was a little bit easier for me to work today than something like a spook, because when that water gets choppy, well, a spook can be a little bit challenging to work with. You might lose the side-to-side action of a spook depending on how those waves are set up, depending upon how the wind is set up. But this I can work reliably from any direction. And here's the setup that I have it on. A 7-foot medium heavy rod, just your standard do-it-all rod. I've got 30-pound braid, and I'm working it to a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, I've got it set up this way simply because I'm working a little bit thicker slop, and those bass, when they inhale this thing, they're going to go right down into that hydrilla, and I've got to be able to yoink them out of there. I've got to be able to put some oomph on the line, and that's going to allow me to do that, especially with this braid, because the braid, we know that braid cuts right through the vegetation, and you can saw right through it, and you can bring that bass to the boat. So this here, simple setup, not really hard to do. You probably already have something like this when you're working it. You don't have to have any special gear. You don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money for a special setup. This will work just fine. Now, when am I using one type of boy howdy over the other? When am I using the prop one versus the tail weighted one? Well, it depends on the situation. Now, if we've got a little bit of chop on the water, if it tends to be a little bit windy, I will tend to go more towards that prop version. But it also depends on the fish's activity level. If I'm noticing that those fish are pretty active, well, I can go with the prop version, because the tail weighted version is like more subtle than a popper. You can work it a little bit more subtly, and if those fish are a bit shy, if they're a bit pressured, that's when the tail weighted version is going to do you really good. And the thing about the tail weighted version is well, you can even fish it when those water temps are a lot colder than you think it should be for working topwater. That's one of the first baits that I tie on to see during the late winter if those bass are going to be ready for topwater, is a tail weighted boy howdy, because it's got a good spit to it, but it's very, very subtle. It doesn't have a lot of splash. It doesn't make a lot of commotion. It kind of spits, wiggles underwater, and then comes back up and bobs a little bit. And that's about it. And if you leave nice, good long pauses, it gives you a very clear indication of whether those bass are ready for the topwater bite. And surprisingly, they're generally ready a lot earlier than you think they are. So don't be afraid to try something a little older. You know, we have all these new toys, all these newfangled things, whopper ploppers, and we've got buzz baits, and we've got walking baits, and we've got frogs, and we've got all of these different things. But I'm telling you what, sometimes doing it the old way, well, it works out so well. It turns out to be the best way because it allows you to give those bass a completely different presentation, which on a pressured body of water might just be exactly what you need to catch those stubborn and hard to work fish. So there you have it. One of my all-time favorite topwater presentations, the good old boy howdy. If you're not using one, well, I suggest you give it a try. Yes, I talk about them a lot on this channel, but that's because they are so effective. And right now, as that water's heating up and all across the country, topwater is a viable option, tie one on. You'll be the only one out there fishing it, and you'll be the only one out there catching bass on them. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.